Hi, my name is Sam Wordsworth. I'm a cinematographer, director and DOP from the UK, and I am the UK Ambassador for Easyrig. We are here at FOMO Rentals down in London, based in Shoreditch, and they have helped us out by lending us their space and all of their equipment to help showcase the different capacities and capabilities of the Easyrigs. Specifically, we are focusing on the new Easyrig Vario 6, which has just launched and fills a gap between the Minimax on this side, which is a very low weight capacity, up to the Vario 5, which is obviously the industry standard and what most people will have used. So behind me, we have our three different Easyrigs we're going to be looking at today. This one here, which is the Vario 5, is the industry standard. It's been around for quite a few years. Many people have used it. It comes in two configurations depending on the springs that you have rigged up. So we have, in the lightweight springs, we can go from 5 to 15 kilograms. And on the heavy duty springs, we can go from 10 all the way up to 25 kilograms. Now, that is really, really useful, especially if you're working with, particularly heavy camera rigs. It's a lot of, traditional big build cameras with big cinema lenses and all the ancillary accessories, focus, monitors, wireless transmission, everything you add on there, it adds a lot of weight. But what has been found in more recent years is the shift towards sort of more agile, lightweight production. So here we have the Sony Vario, which is a heavy medium weight camera. We have the Komodo here, which is it's probably a lighter medium weight camera, and then we have all the way down the bottom end, your FX3 rigged out with a V-lock mount. Now, the Vario 5 it's a very capable and very high capacity rig, but it's also heavy. And on the lighter end of the spectrum, as you get lighter with the cameras, you don't get the same stabilizing power from the rig. So if you run a really, really lightweight camera on a heavy duty rig, you don't quite get the same functionality out of it. So a few years ago, Easyrig brought out something called the Minimax here. Now the Minimax was really designed for prosumers, people just getting into the game of rigging up their camera, but it was still going to be very much on the lightweight scale. The good thing about the Minimax is it is super lightweight as a rig itself. It comes with the stable arm, and it packs down into a really user-friendly size for transport. So if you're getting on flights, traveling, doing travel documentaries, etc., that was really, really sort of a good option to have. But what we've found is there is probably a gap in the market between what is the Minimax and what is the Vario 5. So the Minimax's weight capacity goes from 3 through to 7 kilograms. Although it's a very useful range, that from anything from the FX3 up to like here, which is rigged at about 4.5 to 5 kilograms. Once you start adding on things like a gimbal, on a ring, that's really pushing the top end of what the Minimax can handle. So Easyrig have done a bit of work on understanding what are all the features that people loved about the Vario 5, combined with the sort of lower weight capacity of the Minimax, and they've come up with basically their latest generation of Easyrig, which is the Vario 6. Not to be confused with a higher number than the Vario 5, it actually sits in between the two. The Vario 6 is lighter weight than the Vario 5. It has a slightly lower capacity, although a much bigger range than the Minimax. So the Minimax goes from 3 to 7 kilograms. The Vario 6 comes in at 4 to 14 kilograms. That's all in one configuration, no changing of springs. And the Vario 5 now sits at 5 to 15 or 10 to 25. Now, what we're going to do is have a more detailed look at the Vario 6, the specific functions and features they've added or refined from previous versions. So the first thing to notice is the weight of the Vario 6 is a lot lighter than the Vario 5. It's really hard to judge until you actually pick it up, but it's a noticeable, significant change. To anybody who has worked with the Vario 5, what you'll notice is after a while you get lethargic, you get tired because it is a heavy, big rig, and that's even without the camera on it. If I lay it down flat, what you can see here along the back, this is a lot more refined, it's a lot smaller, it's just a bit more sleek and slimline. Specifically here, you can see is the adjustment knob. Now, on the Vario 5, there is a pull-out T-bar Allen key, which then goes into the side here, and you tighten it to adjust the tension of the main string. I'll show you that here. You can see here is the adjustments. Here's the pull-out T-bar, and then you place that into here and tighten it or loosen it to adjust the tension. So while that mechanism works fine, it's a useful function, it is quite tricky to do it one-handed as a single operator. It's very hard to reach your arm around the back, pull out the T-bar, get it in, crank it up. So what they've done is they've actually changed it so it's a single hand crank on the back. You can, as the operator, you can reach your arm around and adjust the tension. So it means really it's reducing the amount of people you need or assistance you need while operating it. It comes with a standard gimbal vest, which is this one, and obviously it's available in the different types of vests as well. So you have the female operator vest and other versions are on the market as well. This vest is exactly the same as the Vario 5, so there's lots and lots of padding, lots of adjustment straps, and as usual, you twist these to increase and decrease the amount of support it gives you on the back, there. And across the back, you've got these screws here which lift or reduce the height of the main arm above your body. As with the other rigs, they have the same amount of adjustments for packing down. So you start with the stable arm, you pull that out, pop that down, and then you pull it up from here and fold it away nicely inside. That's everything you've seen so far is the same as it is on the Vario 5. Just pop that back up and that back up. So in addition to the sort of first person adjusting a tension, you can adjust the tension of or the spring tension here for the vertical stabilizing on the Z arm stabilizing arm. But what they've also done, and this was a feature in the later generations of the Stable, the G3 versions I believe, you have here a lock. So this lock allows you to lock it into the 90-degree horizontal position. So if I pull that down and hit the lock, you can see now that is locked into 90 degrees. Very useful, for instance, if you're operating indoors. Also, some people prefer not to have this bouncing around. It very much depends on user case. Some people like to have this when combined with a gimbal, but maybe have it locked out when they're handheld. Other people like it the other way around. So this is definitely a finesse upgrade. On my version of the Easyrig Vario 5, it relies on having this screw, which you take out, you pull this arm down and you put the screw through and lock it into position. Again, a bit fiddly, not easy to do by yourself when you are operating. So again, this just makes it easy. Pull the arm down, lock it off, carry on going. Don't need to de-rig, don't need to take the camera off. Now, the last thing I really want to focus on is the different attachment mechanisms for getting onto the ball stud, which you can see here. Now, the original versions of the Easyrigs, the Easyrig 3s and the original Vario 5s, all came with, you might recognize these, a little grip. And these were actually attached to the string. You didn't have the ball stud attachment at all. And they went around the handle, gripped on, tightened, and that was it. That was your attachment to the camera. These systems had their use, but they were very restrictive in certain areas. So quite a few years ago, they introduced the ball and stud mechanism, which is from here, pull it out, plop it on. This was the Gen 1 version of the ball and stud. Now, it did the job, but it was quite awkward to get this thing released. This is due to because they had the tension of the line and you were trying to pull this up. This wasn't a lever action like this. You had to pull the whole thing up to release while also trying to keep hold of your camera. Again, it made it really like a two-person operation to release any camera. So a few years ago, or in the last year or so, they've done various different versions of a new operating release stud. We have one version here on the Vario 5, which you can see is a slightly larger area. You can have single hand, and it's the whole sort of bracket just pushes up and you release the camera. This is quite easy because you can have the camera in one hand or the handle in one hand, pull that up and release off. Now on the Vario 6, they've changed this again. And it's again very similar, just makes the whole system slightly more ergonomic. And actually now this is extremely easy to release while still being safe and secure. Your camera's not going to be coming off. The pressure is pulling that down at all times. But when you're ready to take the camera off, you hold the, I'll demonstrate. That's on there. You hold the camera with one hand, release, and you're off. So again, just a refinement of the process. It's all about making the Easyrig more user-friendly and yeah, less of a hassle. Now finally what they've done is they've upgraded and changed slightly the original grip design to include a ball stud, and these will come in the package with the Easyrig. So it allows you to, if you have a camera which doesn't have 1/4 inch or 3/8 attachment points on your top handle, you can still slot these on, grip it down and lift. Now that is really useful. For instance, there are some rigs, or even if you're not holding a camera on your Easyrig, you might be having something else that you're holding on it. It allows you still to be able to attach and use the ball stud as normal. So what we're going to do now is look specifically at the weight limits of each rig and where the crossover between the Minimax, the Vario 6 and the Vario 5 come. And also really looking at how far you can push the limits of those weights. So as I said before, the Minimax has a weight limit of 3 to 7 kilos. What you find is if you can run a lighter rig on than 3 kilos on it, but what you don't get is the effectiveness of the stabilization. And that's because the weight is not enough to pull enough tension on the string and to effectively stabilize it. In addition, the spring mechanism that is on the stable arm, that needs a certain amount of weight to actually activate it. And each spring has an optimum sort of weight limit between the highest tension and the lowest tension. So on the upper end, at 7 kilos on the stable, you can, if you really crank it, go slightly higher to 7.5 kilos. But one, you risk damaging the rig itself. And two, you're going to be really kind of pushing the limits of what's effective. And so the actual stabilization becomes less effective, and then what's the point in having the rig in the first place? So we're going to look at a few different camera packages on each of the different Easyrigs and show where it's effective and then where it pushes too much in terms of weight. So in front of us, we've got 4 different camera setups. From the lower end, we've got the FX3 with a simple V-lock mount off the back. This would be probably the lightest weight rig you would want to go on an Easyrig for, because anything lighter than that, really, you can handheld to just as good effect. The whole point of the Easyrig is to allow you to hold a camera either for longer periods of time if you're doing documentary filming, or if you're doing event coverage where you need to be holding a specific angle, or to hold heavier weights, heavier cameras, or to have a stable motion, and that is, either if it's a push in, pull out, or if it's a walking motion where you want to reduce the Z axis. So anything below 3.5 kilos, really, you don't really need to have an Easyrig on, unless, of course, you're operating for 45 minutes standing still and you don't want to use a monopod. So the next weight category up, we have our Komodo, and that is running a cine lens with a follow focus and a V-lock battery on the back. This weighs in around about 4.5 to 5 kilograms. On the higher end of the medium scale, what we have is a Sony Burano. This is running with, we've got a Kowa cine lens on the front. We have a dual V-lock plate on the back with 2 150s. And we're running a wireless follow focus system. You could potentially have a wireless transmitter on here and a screen as well. this currently weighs in around about 8.5 kilos. Now on the higher end of the scale, obviously not the most you could possibly run, but we've got our Alexa Mini LF. We're running with an Atlas Orion anamorphic lens, which is obviously pretty weighty. Dual V-lock plate on the back with twin 150s. We've got a screen on the top. We've got our Cine tape on the front, connected into the follow focus system and the ARRI High 5 system. All of these things are relatively heavy duty accessories. So this rig here specifically weighs in about 14.5 kilos. So it's quite heavy, very heavy. And definitely you don't want to be running that handheld for more than 20 seconds at a time, and if you really value your vertebrae. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on each of the rigs and show you the minimum and maximum weight that it can effectively take. We're going to start with the Minimax. I'm just going to show you a couple of little features that I will point out later. First of all, the tension wheel is right on the back. Now I'll show you later, this is quite tricky for actually getting to by yourself. And then you've got the tension of the spring at the top here for the stable arm. It's super lightweight, it's nice and easy to get on. The support is not exactly, there's not a huge amount of padding on it, but then again, it doesn't need to be because you're only carrying relatively lightweight cameras. Now, this has got the old style original version of the ball and stud, and that just clicks on there. Now, little note to everybody, in terms of stabilizing or working out your tension, remember this arm, when perfectly balanced, wants to be in the 90-degree position, or thereabouts. So as you pull it up or pull it down, you've got movement either way to allow you to stabilize. That's what helps you to get the Z-axis stabilization. So as you're walking around, that top bit should bounce up and down. Then also you want your string to be about the right flexibility, about the right tension, so that as you pull it up, it nicely increases without jerking. And as you bring it down, you can pull it down a bit more without jerking. Now this is a bit where it's quite tricky, because to adjust the tension on the back, you have to get your arm round. Remember which way's lefty-loosey, which way is righty-tighty. That can get a little bit annoying. So quite often I find myself having to ask a friend or a colleague to tighten it or loosen it. But apart from that, it works as advertised. Across the top here, you've got the distance of the camera from your body, so you can release this. Little trick is to put your thumb on the string, put it up there, and then you can theoretically move that forward and back. So some people actually use a rig like this when they are over their shoulder. They have it really close to them. Other people, they want it out in front of them. Now, as you can see, as I push that string further away, it's increased the amount of pressure on the end. And so you now need to tighten this spring here to get it back to the right level. And the best way to do that, let go of the camera, adjust it until it's around about 90 degrees. There you go, too much. Lift it back up. Half a tighten, too little, there. So what you're showing here is this is a 3.5 kilo camera. Now already, I would say it's a little bit on the light side. It works, but as you can see there, the amount of adjustment I have to do is minuscule to make it either over or under tension. So half a turn on here, and it drops too low, half a tighten, and it goes too high. So really 3.5 kilos is the absolute minimum you want to be working on this, this rig. So if I take this one off, again, this is the slightly awkward one. We have to pull it up with one hand. And I go to the 4.5 to 5 kilo camera. Let's get that back in the middle. So click that back on. Now this isn't a perfectly balanced rig, to be fair. It's a little bit off to one side. I would probably have a handle on this side as well, but for the purpose of demonstration, I don't think it matters too much. straight away what we can see is the weight has increased, and if I slowly hold that, you can see the string is dropping down. So I need to increase the tension on the string, and I need to increase the tension on the spring. And the spring is relatively easy to do yourself. You can put your arm up there, but this is where it gets tricky. So if I just keep tightening until it stops dropping. Now I can already feel myself getting to a relatively high tension on that string. It's just getting within range. There we go, that's not far off. Now increase the tension on the spring a bit more. Okay, there, nearly there. Right, so if I pull this down now, it should pull the string out a bit. It goes up. Right, you can see that that string increases there. That means there's not enough tension on the spring. Tighten it up a bit more, and we're about in range. So, as you can see, the Minimax works pretty well for 3.5. This is nearly 5 kilos, and I think you could probably go up to 6 kilos, or even add something like a gimbal ring, an RS4 Pro on a tilter ring, and you'd be okay. Anything above 6.5 to 7 kilos, I think you're really going to start pushing the point of usefulness on this. And you can show that by going to the Vario, which is it's currently sitting at 8 kilos. So I touch that on. I mean, that's not even coming off the table at the moment. So I'm going to crank this up to the maximum capacity now. Maximum tightness on the spring. And the maximum tightness on the string. Now this is where it gets difficult, because as you go to the real limit, you get to a point where you can't tighten that anymore, and that has no tension. So that's overweight. We can't use this rig for that particular camera. So now we'll move on to the Vario 6. Already this has got the really lovely gimbal vest. It's got lots of adjustment. I really love this ratchet strap waistband. Allows you to just increase it and release it like that. Very useful if you want to ratchet it up while you're rolling, and then give yourself a little bit of a break while you're stopped. That comes up on there. These have got plenty of adjustment on here, and as you said, you can lift these up or down if you want to. Make sure these are quite tight. People often forget about these little side adjustments. They just allow you to pull it back into your body a bit. Now this is where this rig comes really into its own. Side handle for adjustment of the tension on the string, and the handle here for the adjustment of the spring. What's also really good is having this lock mechanism here means that I can adjust each of these elements independently. So I can lock this down and adjust the tension on the string, get that right, then unlock it and adjust the tension on the spring. Stops a bit of fiddling around. Now I'm going to start with the lowest and the lightest camera we've got here at 3.5 kilos. Now theoretically this should be too light for this rig, so let's see how it does. At the moment I would say that's 2/10, so I'm going to release this off to its absolute lowest limit. So that's at its lowest level, and what you're finding here is you can pull it down, but it takes quite a lot of tension to pull it down, and it's very easy to push it up. So that means it's probably slightly over tightened, therefore it's probably not best of use for this rig. Of course, you could build out your camera and make it slightly heavier to use this rig, which is definitely an option that some people do, artificially make your camera heavier in order to use a heavier rig. If I wind down this spring to its minimum, it's actually not far off being vertical. So I would say, considering that the Minimax, the minimum weight is 3 kilos, this is 4, you're not far off having the same lower end capacity between these two rigs. But What you don't get on the Minimax is, I'm going to skip over this camera, I'm going to go to the heavyweight camera where the Minimax really failed. So let's show it set up on here. Now obviously we've reduced the tension as much as we can, so I'm going to dial this wheel all the way up. And actually I'm going to start by locking this out. Okay, so that vertical, the horizontal Z arm is locked. So I'm going to tighten this up, get to a point where it's holding it. The best way to do this is just to keep lifting it up and down, waiting till it holds. There we go, it's held. Just release it off a bit. There we go, so you can see it's pulling down, stopping. Probably another half turn. There we go. Down, up. And does it hold? It holds. So now let's just release off the top lock. Okay, and we're going to increase the spring. Keep going until you start to feel it taking effect. And again, same technique, so just keep lifting it up, tighten it, and slowly lower it and see how the tension is. Lift it up, tighten, and lower it down. So we're close, another half turn probably. Right, we're about there. So that's in the horizontal position while unlocked. Then lower it down, pull the string out a bit for a low operating height, or lift it up and it holds it for a top-down operating height. So we pull it into the middle. You can see the action of a spring going up and down as I'm jumping around. That's really exactly what the Easyrig is designed for. Lots of support down here. I'm really not feeling it on the front. We could do lots of like slow push-ins. We could do circles around, doing this sort of parallax effect. You can have it out in front of you. You can really have it over your shoulder if you wanted to. It has the same adjustment bar, but actually they've increased the distance of this adjustment bar. So now, like I did before, pull that spring over there, release this all the way back here. Now obviously, as we showed before, this is going to adjust the tension on that spring, but you can see this makes it really easy if you're going to do an over-the-shoulder rig like this. Okay, so the last thing I want to do now is try the Vario 6, but actually using the camera that is technically rated at ½ kilo over the maximum capacity of this rig. This will show us what the top end is like and how close we are to being able to fulfill that capacity. So put that on here. Again, I'm going to start by locking out this spring. And I'm going to increase the tension. So lower, raise. Let's get a little bit more. There's plenty, feels like there's plenty of adjustment left on this string. There we go, right. That's pretty good, I'd say. Right, now let's see what the top spring is saying. Oof, that's pretty spot on. So, this Vario 6, even though this camera setup is 14.5 kilos going on 15 kilos, it's actually handling it really well. So let's have a look at the... It's probably on the slightly heavier end, I would say, but considering the lower end can handle this camera, the top end, it's not far off. So that just shows you the sort of capability of this new rig and the refinement, allowing you to use cameras really on the lower end of the weight spectrum and, as we see here, on that much higher end. So I wouldn't want to push it any further than this. But it does mean if you want to catch all Easyrig now, they're going to handle any production environment, then the Vario 6 is a really, really good contender. Now, another thing to show you is just this release mechanism. So obviously I'm going to put this down on the table for safety, but 2 fingers in, up you go. So much easier than the old ball and stud. So let's put that down there. This is the Vario 5 rig. The actual vest is very similar, if not the same, as the Vario 6. So all that extra padding, the ratchet strap with the quick release, side tensions, shoulder tension, and then the back support twists. So what I've done is I've set this rig now to the lowest possible tension on both the spring and the string. So if we put it onto this camera, you can see here, I can't loosen that anymore. It's at its absolute minimum and it's locked up all the way there. So it doesn't really work that. The string technically is within range, but you're not going to get the best use out of that rig using it on this. So let's move up to the next weight, which is the 4.5 kilos. This is technically under the minimum limit of the Vario 5. And as you can see here, still that spring is in the full upright position. There's not enough weight to pull it down. So I really need to add a lot of weight to it with my hand to get that within range. What that shows is that anything below 5 kilos is just not really usable with this Easyrig. You can add weight to a system to increase it artificially to get it within the sort of operating range, but do you really want to be adding weight to a camera? Because it kind of defeats the object of it. So this Vario 5 is a really, really great rig for the heavy duty, even the medium weight cameras, but it doesn't have the range of weight that the Vario 6 has. Remember, the Vario 6 could just about hold this. It could definitely do all of these 3 cameras. So really that shows that if you want a gimbal rig or an Easyrig that can do everything, then the Vario 6 is the best option for you. Okay, so the last thing we need to look at is a product that Easyrig brought out a few years ago now, and it's called the EasyTilt bar. Now this is specifically designed for gimbal operators who are using a ring style gimbal. What we found is in early versions of the Easyrig, where you attached to the top handle here, it worked in terms of giving you support of the weight itself. But the real issue with that is that you couldn't do a tilt down motion without basically putting all the pressure on the front, or therefore the top of the gimbal ring. So what they did was they brought out something like this very simple solution called the EasyTilt bar. All it does is attach 2 side brackets to the side ring of your gimbal and slot these little ropes over on each side, lock them in with this little rubber locking ring, and then you could adjust the height of the rope above the top of the gimbal. All that you want to do is make sure that you are clearing the top handle. Personally, I actually take the top handle off on my Movi to use this, so it gets it even closer to the gimbal. And then you attach your string as there. Now, we've weighed this ring with the Burano, and including the Ronin 2 and the Burano, this is coming in at around about 14 kilos. Now, we already know from the previous test that the Vario 6 can handle 14.5 kilos. So it should handle this fine. Now I'm currently in a locked out position, so I'm going to unlock it. And there we go, we're flying. So the good thing about this is obviously you've got the spin motion, you've got roll, and now you have tilt. And that's all without putting all the weight at the top here. So it means if you want to do a top down shot, going over something like that, really easy with this EasyTilt bar. It's a very simple solution. We've seen it out in the wild, but I just wanted to show you that setup with a heavy camera still works really well with this Vario 6. The one thing we really wanted to just show as well is the new packaging or bag that the Vario 6 comes in. What they've done is they've redesigned the sort of satchel style hold-all bag into a roller case, really well padded, you know, a pull top handle, for rollering around, great for getting around the place, a little bit easier to manage. Obviously you've still got a side handle if you need it to carry it like a briefcase, or you can put it on its wheels. Fits in nicely. There's loads of room for other stuff if you want to fit that in as well. And last just point to touch on as well, this version of the Vario 6 is a pre-production model, so it doesn't have the bracket here, which you can see on display here, which allows you to place the Easyrig on a baby pin or a C-stand. Great if you want to put it on a mag liner for transporting around on set when you're not wearing it. So we're just going to wrap up on today. What we have here is the 3 Easyrigs. We've got the Mini Max, the Vario 6 and the Vario 5. Each product has its different operating range and set of features. What we see is an evolution of the technology over years. And the Vario 5, which is probably the oldest of the three here, but has been the most well used in the industry, has the highest capacity, and from, in this configuration, from 5 to 15 kilograms, or if you change the springs out, it can go from 10 to 25 kilos. That is the product you want if you are only ever dealing with big high-end rigs, you know, something that is well over 5-6 kilograms all the way up to 25 kilograms. The next version out that they brought out a few years ago is the Minimax. This is really designed for the sort of prosumer, sort of lightweight run and gun, do it all videographer slash filmmaker. It's a lighter system, it doesn't take so much strain on your back, it's lower padding, but it packs away smaller, it's definitely easy to travel with. Now, the newest product, the Vario 6, combines the sort of features and technologies of both of these together. It improves on designs like the locking mechanism, the operator reachable sort of tension system on the string, and it actually has a much wider range. So we are talking from 4 kilograms or even under, all the way to 14-15 kilograms, which is a very similar max range to this. If you are a existing owner, for instance, you own the Vario 5 or the Minimax, there's not a lot of compelling reasons to buy the Vario 6 at the Vario 5 if you are only operating heavy duty cameras. But if you're really struggling on the lower end, you know, that sort of 5-6 kilogram scale, and you're finding that that's really not doing it for you, then this is the natural progression. Equally, if you're an owner of the Minimax and you're finding that the top end, you don't get enough flexibility to, you know, add things like screens or follow focus, then this is your perfect next step. If you're new to Easyrig and you're thinking about buying it, then this is definitely the product that you want to start out with. It covers all the bases, the prices in between the two of them. It's a much more flexible package, and it's much more refined with all the extra features that have been added on. So that's it for Easyrig. They are going to be showcasing these at BSC and at NAB and all the good trade shows this year. So get down if you want to, go and have a look, hands-on experience with them. I'm happy to answer any questions if people want to message me. As I said, I'm the UK ambassador, so they generally send questions from the UK to me if they want sort of hands-on experience. But yeah, that's it. Thank you to FOMO Rentals for allowing us to use their space and all their amazing equipment here. And definitely check out them if you need any rentals in the UK, or if you're down in London. They're based in Shoreditch. They've got a co-working space here to work in as well. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for listening.